do that in practice if I was going to get better. And what that was my ability to use my strength and size for powerful strokes, getting in distance per stroke. And that was done through maximizing my line. And when I'm saying my line, I'm saying that I want to be in the least resistance position as possible while I'm swimming, and that's my streamline position. So I wanted to use my pull and kick and perfect a technique that allowed me to be in that long line the most amount of time. And what that was developing strength, my aerobic capacity to have that in practice, and to be able to mirror image what I was doing in competitions for a longer period of time in training, and that would relate to me becoming a better breaststroker.
So how do you bring freshness to a sport that has so much repetition?
Short-term challenges. That's the only way. You can't sit there on Monday and say, this weekend I want to do this X amount of time. You got to sit there on Monday and say, tonight at practice I want to do this. And if I don't do this, that's not going to allow me to do what I want to do on Saturday. Come Tuesday, you got to repeat the process. So you got to look at each day as a new day and a new challenge. And I don't look at it as the big picture because, again, not many people can swim and stare at a black line for 5 hours. It's a draining process, but you have to find little tasks each day that excite the athlete.
Your mental side. Tell me a little bit about how you set up the mental side of your approach, both to training and certainly to the best performance possible.
Well, the mental side, like you said, is just as demanding as the physical side. I feel like, when I come to practice, that's almost the easy part. That, any physical demand you throw at me, I'm going to give it my best. But there are mental aspects that involve sacrifice and effort and where they're going in your life. You can't just go out there and work hard every day and give it your all and expect that that's going to do it. There are ups and downs with everything. I think if you try and minimize those and see the big picture and realize that there are other things in life that are just as important to you, you can have a peace of mind and continue on with that path.
And tell me once again who your favorite face to see is at 4:30 in the morning.
My favorite face to see at 4:30 in the morning is the back of my eyelids, because I don't get up that early, first of all. An important aspect of cross-training swimming with dryland is that you maintain the integrity of your stroke. A lot of the work that I'll do here will be emphasized particularly in paralleling what I do in the water. We want work that is specific and directed towards what we want. So by coming up with a dryland routine that directly mirrors what the stroke would look like or what we're trying to achieve in the water, I think we have increased performance. Everything that I do in dryland has an impact directly on my stroke, whether it's knee flexion, ankle flexion, maintaining the core line, anything that I think is going to overload the body, so when I swim breaststroke, it's going to feel like I'm floating. Woo! Toys that I use are just going to reinforce our philosophy with breaststroke, with the kick and the pull. They're just going to put resistance in the motion that we're trying to stress. So it's an overload. Stretch cord attached to a bucket. They obviously made this one a little easy by putting some holes in the bottom. If I'm stressing them to a higher range of degree than I would when I'm swimming, my body will adjust to that and feel like that range is being adapted into my stroke. Probably one of my more favorite ones is the stretch cord. This is going to attach to my waist, and as you can imagine, tied into pretty much a leash. And I'll use anything that will force my ankle position to be more extreme than normal, anything to force my knee position to be more than normal. It's your standard weight belt. This one feels like it's about 10 pounds, anything to feel my line more than normal. So what we're trying to do is overload these areas so that when I do swim the stroke, they feel natural and strong to me at the same time. I mean, you name it, as long as it's making me tired, we're using it.
We began with a standard paddle and just used finger tubing to strap it on somewhat awkwardly to the inside of the foot to create more resistance when he kicked in breaststroke.
What I saw in that was similar to what you see with any type of training. You put a resistance somewhere where you want it, you stress that resistance, and then you build up strength to it.
Ed tailored the cut to the contour of his ankle.
I readjusted the holdings, sawed it down, put some cool designs on it to make it unique to myself, and this thing worked.
Now with a better fit and positioning new holes for extra finger tubes, you're going to have a more refined engineered kick paddle for breaststrokers.
A squeeze method would not work with these paddles. What we're trying to do is have a full flexion with a pushback and a close, and this paddle allowed that, and that was a huge step, I think, to developing my kick. The breaststroke kicking machine, it's the same concept we're trying to achieve here, is resistance against the ankles in the kick to develop strength in your kick.
First time he used it, he came back and said that the tension coming off the heel didn't create pressure the way he'd like to feel the kick.
So when you went to kick, the tension was coming from an ankle point that really wasn't relevant to your kick. It was just more relevant to an extension. You can get that same force by going in the weight room. So we re-engineered it so that the point of tension was coming from the outside of the foot. Okay, and what this allowed was when the tension were to tighten and you would have to pull against it, it would flex your foot out in the proper breaststroke position. You can't go into a weight room and reproduce the kick like you can in the water, so we want to put the resistance in the same fashion that the kick is, and this toy is allowing us to do that. The paddles are allowing us to do that. It would reproduce the effect of a resistance training against this ankle flexed kick that allows for when I take this off, I'm going to feel exactly like you would if you were swimming with paddles when you take it off, that you have a good catch and you're maximizing your range of motion.
Has anybody ever beat you in challenges on those toys?
I don't let that happen. There's no way. There's a combination of ways of putting this catch, this anchoring of your hands, and this direct kick with your pull. There's a timing.
102.7 now, right on world record pace.
The timing is where all the power comes from.